on to the next session we have here, and privileged to welcome back Dr. Jitendra Sharma on stage. And this session will be Trailblazing and Digitally Transforming Medical Education.
So we start whenever we are awake. Good morning. Yes. So it was intentional that my lecture was kept as the one of the last two talks because I happen to speak which is very I happen to speak in a way which is very sleep-inducing. So my wife agrees with it. So yeah. So I am Jitendra Sharma. I come from India. Happy to be here. I deal with disease, deaths, drugs, devices. I'm a real world guy. If something doesn't happen in the real world or doesn't get treated in the real world, it doesn't impress us. It doesn't help us. So why are crazy people like me talking of virtual reality? Because diseases cannot be treated virtually. You have to treat them really. You cannot save someone's life virtually, let that person die, and claim to be saving the person virtually. What doesn't happen in the real world, in my field, doesn't happen. But then there is a fantastic reason why we feel virtual reality, augmented reality can incrementally boost our life-saving capacity. And how we do that is the reason I'm standing here in front of you. Now, I'm going to show a small video of my facility. The lyrics, it's a song. So pardon the language, it's in native Indian language, which is Hindi. Please enjoy the music. Words you may not fully understand. Essentially, this is world's largest and world's first mega medical devices manufacturing cluster. We produce MRs, CT scanners, ventilators. At the peak of COVID, India needed 1.2 million RT-PCR COVID test kits every day. And out of that 1.2 million every day, 1.1 million every day was produced by us. Essentially, we produce ventilators, oxygen concentrators, operation theater lights, anything that is used, any medical engineering product that's used. And my campus has 3 phases. It's also world's fastest built industrial zone. It was built, a 4 million square feet of R&D and production space was built in 342 days. My office was built in 113 days. It's a massive building. So the video is in 3 parts. Part 1 is how we built the place and how we are using that place for AR, VR work. Part 2 is how we strengthen, and part 3 is what we did in COVID. The entire video is about 4 minutes, but I'm going to cut it short in about 2.5 minutes. So here you go. small and simple video of what we do. Essentially, it's a city of about 8 miles with 118 enterprises, 6,000 people producing goods all over the world. I'm not going to bore you with the presentation, but essentially, when we produce medical devices and we ship them from all over the world, now imagine 300,000 oxygen concentrators going from one place on earth to about 20,000 healthcare facilities from Brazil to Belarus to Singapore and Indonesia and Taiwan and so on. Imagine once we supply the oxygen concentrator and it's being used in a hospital, the oxygen sensor fails. What do we do? What does patient do? What does the technician do? So when the technicians go there and they open up an oxygen concentrator, they do not know whether it's nitrogen purging tank which is the problem, or the oxygen sensor is the problem, or the composition of zeolite which has been used inside the concentrator is the problem. Imagine if we were to deploy EON there. Here is a technician which goes with a toolkit at the remotest part of the world, can interface with the best of the engineers back at manufacturing unit or R&D lab, could not only identify what is the problem, but can actually be helped by the EON center at AMTZ to fix it. That's life-saving. And that's why we believe in virtual reality. Case study number 2. It is horrendous for a paraplegic patient, for a spinal cord injury patient, and forgive me for only talking about diseases and things like that, because we don't know anything else. We don't know the good things. So imagine a paraplegic patient or a spinal cord injury patient at a home being dragged to hospital every day for physiotherapy. How ridiculous can that be? And imagine if a virtual reality center, which we have set up in our campus, fully equipped with the right machines for giving physiotherapy for those who cannot even stand out from the bed. If that center, under a therapist with all the machines and a glass which can be shipped to the patient on the bed, can allow the patient to do physiotherapy on his or her bed under the right guidance of the physiotherapist and the clinical experts. Case number 3. And this is not something that's known to most of us, but whenever there is a surgery in a hospital, any surgery, anywhere in the world, the fundamental principle is keep 4 units of blood ready. Because you don't know when you are operating on a patient, how much would be the blood loss. It could be less, but it could also be more. So on an average, every single hospital in every country of the world asks for 4 units of blood to be arranged before operating on a patient, sometimes even postponing the surgery. But we don't know how much blood will be lost. Imagine if a camera could be fixed on the top of operation theater light, with the help of AR/VR, could calculate, literally in milliliters, the amount of blood that's bleeding out. You can actually predict whether the patient of a certain kind would need 20 ml of blood or 200 ml of blood. These are real applications of virtual reality, augmented reality, and our conjunction with the knowledge metaverse. And therefore, I go back to the principle I mentioned during the panel discussion. Most of the training, most of the education, most of the capacity building that we do is based on past knowledge. We don't know the future. And the real game would be when we can start stimulating the future to improve our present, not stimulating the past to improve our future. Our future would improve automatically if our present continues to improve every day. And for our present to improve, we need to stimulate the future. Now, there are 4 fundamental principles, and I'm just going to slide through some things that you have already seen, but more importantly, this institute called Kalam Institute of Health Technology, which happens to be world's only WHO collaborating center for health innovations. That's set up by us as well in our campus for the country and for the world. Now, we had a funny problem in a country called Somalia, where oxygen concentrators were needed during COVID, but oxygen concentrators require electricity to work. And this hospital neither had oxygen nor had the electricity. So the WHO Collaborating Center, along with the WHO headquarters in Geneva, worked on providing solar-powered oxygen concentrator in Somalia, in hospitals which did not have oxygen or electricity, only with the help of AR/VR. That's the power that virtual reality brings to our innate reality. There are 4 fundamental principles that I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to close my presentation here. But 4 fundamental principles that we work on furthering our relationship with EON and the knowledge EON brings in. Now, those principles are what helps us be stronger, safer, and effective. The first principle is individualization. Can we create knowledge by individuals and aggregate them? Now, EON is perhaps the only, if not one of the few, that allows individuals, institutions to create knowledge. So you are not actually selling a book. You are teaching someone how to write a book. You can empower people who work with you in your value chain to create knowledge such that 1 + 1 is greater than 2. The aggregated knowledge is higher than some of the individual scores. The second principle is something that in our line of work is extremely necessary, and I'm not sure to what degree EON is doing that at this moment, but of course it's in the game plan, is authentication. Now, if I say something while creating knowledge that a CT scan has 12 critical features, somebody knowledgeable about CT scan must authenticate it. It's not a toy, it could be dangerous. It could be a bad fix. And so the second pillar of strength, the second characteristic which helps us in knowledge creation is authentication. The third is harmonization. Because if I build a CT scan and say something about a CT scan or an MR, and my friend over there says something about MR, they need to be harmonized on the same principles that are universal in nature on electromagnetism. So the principles of electromagnetic interference, safety, electromagnetism, radiation physics are universal. They have even statutory bodies like International Atomic Energy Commission in Vienna regulating it. And therefore, harmonization is important. While we create knowledge, these knowledge pools are first authenticated and they are harmonized. And fourth, and most important, is democratization. We wouldn't be here today if it would be not for www. And www was created in the particle collider in CERN, in Geneva, Germany, France border. There is a huge 22-kilometer tunnel which discovered the God's particle, stimulating the Big Bang. And CERN as an organization creates thousands of technologies, one among them being www. And that's why we are here. That's democratization. You create something wonderful, you give it to the world, you allow most people in the world to actually use it for free, and some to pay for it for value addition. That's democratization. And a day would come when, for virtual reality, augmented reality, metaverse, EON would become the www of the new knowledge gateway. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, is there any questions from the floor? I have one question. Wait, you said we were going to get sleepy, but I do have one question. So in medical, a lot of people jump right to AR and VRs just for anatomy and physiology. So as a biomedical engineer, I take offense to that because that was not my subject in medical, right? Mine was about building devices for medical uses, and then integrating that with the body, and that's what we study in biomedical engineering. So how do we, you showed so many examples there, so immediately I went to like, how do we move the medical industry, or maybe medical education into understanding that AR/VR has a kind of a breadth and depth that they haven't kind of understood yet?
So very interesting question. Goes back to what we discussed in the panel. The world's first operating room was built in Uppsala in Sweden. In the Uppsala University, you can actually go and see it. And that's when operating rooms were called operation theaters, because when you would dissect someone, alive or dead, there would be 60 people watching, and hence it was called a theater. Anatomy and physiology started 300 years ago. When we use AR, VR for anatomy and physiology, you are actually using just the past to create present. You are not using the future. Future could be disease prediction. Future could be viral mutations. Future could be machinery wear and tear. And so the goal is, how much of future can we embed into the present? And so long as that's the key, we would always be ahead of the time. Now, most people find it difficult, laborious, and effortful to do that. And it is resource consuming. And it's easy to take the past knowledge and convert into AR, VR. So actually, we have simulation tables which can give you layers of skin, the epidermis, the dermis, the bones, the muscles. But that's the past. That's already known. And AR, VR shouldn't be used just as a diversion, as another representation of what already exists. But when you actually look at liver function tests, you actually see the cancers of liver. You actually predict models of liver transplantation success rate. You are actually bringing future into the present. And that requires effort and resources, which I'm sure EON is greatly supporting. But the point is, most of us find it convenient to drag the past into the present, whereas our goal should be to bring in the future into the present. Thank you.
Okay, well, we will be making bumper stickers with that. Wait, write that down. We'll be bringing future into the present. Boy, I like to say that every day on everybody I talk to. That's fantastic. So with that, let's have a round of applause. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.